Hi, it's Jordan Teen 1, and I'm back today to show you my next character ghost in my Loomigurumi ghost series. So I had done Mickey and Minnie and Minions, and the new one today is Hello Kitty. So I do have a previous video in which I show you how to make the main body, and then in this tutorial you're going to learn how to make the rest of the parts to finish your Hello Kitty. So she does stand about 5 inches tall, and if you stand her up here, she should stand up on her own. And I think it's a cute little addition to your Halloween decorations, or really for any time of the year. To make your Hello Kitty, you're going to need a hook of some sort. So I'm going to be using a rainbow loom metal hook, but you can use a crochet hook or whatever you have on hand. I'm going to be using black embroidery floss to make the whiskers, but if you don't have that, you can use black rubber bands. And you're going to need 2 pencils for the legs, and they need to be about 4 inches tall. So you can see I've just used some old pencils that don't even have the erasers anymore. And then they'll have to be white, so you can either buy white pencils, or here's an example of a white colored pencil which would work out well. And what I used for mine was just white nail polish. I found that fairly easy to do. And then you're going to need a few clips or stitch markers. You'll need beads or buttons for the eyes, or you can use rubber bands. Now the beads that I'm using are oval shape, and they're about 10 to 12 millimeters. I think maybe you could go just a tiny bit smaller. These are the ones I had on hand, but you probably could go maybe like even a 9 millimeter. You're going to need a piece of cardboard for the bottom, and the piece that I have is about 2 inches by 1.5 inches. So I would definitely recommend when you're cutting your cardboard to cut it on the larger side and then measure it with the base of your ghost, and then you can just cut down as you need to. Because if you cut it too small to begin with, you're going to have to start all over. And as far as my band counts, I tried to be as accurate as possible, so it should be relatively close. I used 98 white, 104 pink, 2 orange for the nose, and then I did show some black here. You may or may not use black. Just depends on if you're using them for the whiskers, you would need 6, and if you plan on using them for the eyes, you would need a couple more. We're going to start by making the ears, so for that we're going to do a magic ring of 4. So I have my 5 white bands, and then I will be using a twist tie just to help me get it started. So this is optional, but I do find it helpful. So if you are using that twist tie, just put it right next to your hook, and then you're going to take your first band and triple this. So it just goes on, twist, on, twist, and back on. So you'll have 3 loops, and then you're just going to bend this in half, and that's just going to help you hold those 3 loops together and also give you something to grab onto. And if you don't have the twist tie, you'll just have to use your fingers to pinch those 3 loops. So you should have 4 bands left, and we're just going to pull those through one at a time. So you're getting the other end back on, one through the other, and from the front always we're pushing through. I have my second band, and from now on you have the 3 loops when you pull through. I have my third, and then one more, and then you're just going to remove that twist tie, put the clip on the band that's on your hook, and now you just want to take a second and try and even these out. So when you do 4, it is a rather small magic ring, but just try and stretch these out so it forms a nice circle. In row 2, you'll need 6 bands, and we're going to do an increase in every other. So we're starting with an increase, then 1, increase, and 1. So here's our magic ring. It is going to be a little bit of a longer stretch since we do have a small magic ring. So you're just stretching over here, you're going under your first stitch, and that's these 2 loops that are on the outer edge of the magic ring. You're pushing through both. we have one, and then back through that same stitch for the second, and then in the next stitch we only have a single. In the third stitch you're going to have two, so there's one, two, and then your last stitch should be where your clip is, and it should be a single. And then you're just going to move that clip to the band that's on your hook. Row 3 is going to be our final row for this ear, and you need 10 rubber bands. So we're doing a pattern of 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1. So we're starting in this first stitch with an increase. And then again we have a second increase in the next stitch. And then in that third stitch we have a single. And where the singles are, that should be where the ear is going to naturally sort of fold in half. And then again we have an increase. And then another increase. And then finally, again, where your clip is, in this last stitch we have a single. And then once again, you're just going to move that clip. And that is going to complete that first ear. You can see it should be a triangle shape, and as I said, it should naturally fold in where we did those singles. So you can mess around and sort of shape it if you feel like you need to. So now what you're going to do is just go back and make a second ear. So I'm not going to film this, but I will add the time to go back to in the tutorial if you feel like you need to follow along with the steps once again. I'm going to attach the ears to the body, but first I need to add the anchor bands. So I have 8 white bands. I'm going to be using 4 anchor bands for each one of the ears. So on the first one here you can see we have this loose band that our clip is on. I'm going to put my hook from the right. I'm going to go through the stitch that this band is coming up through. And then I'm going to also go through this loose band and take the clip off. And then I'm going to come straight across and go through the stitch on the left. Take my first band and I'm going to pull through everything on my hook. Sometimes it's a little bit tough to get through everything. And then I'm going to grab the other end and pull one through the other. So you want to pull sort of tight so that it stays on for now, but you don't want to pull it so tight that it makes it real tiny and stretches out the band. And then I'm going to go to the next stitch down closest to me on the right, and then straight across to the left. Actually, it looks like I went through one that I've already gone through. So I'm going to actually go to this next stitch down, and again I'm going to make that slip knot. And now the next one. And then here's my last one. Oops. So I have my 4 anchor bands, and then I'm just going to repeat that one more time. So again, you're going through the one where your loose band is coming up through, getting on that loose band, and then straight across. It's going to be your first anchor band. coming down to the next stitch and across. It's my second. Third. And then again, here's my fourth. Now that I have my anchor bands on, I'm going to actually attach this to the body. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the body and sort of fold this up in half, just so I have a little bit of a shorter distance to work with to the top here. It's just going to be a lot easier. And then I need to find my center, so you can use this magic ring. And since the ears sort of sit off, not right on top but off to the side, I'm going to not go to this first opening. I think I'll go to maybe this next opening right here. So I'm just going to come up through, and I will take the first end. I can see that my slip knot is sort of coming apart here already, so let me just fix that. And I'm going to see which way I want the ear. If I think it looks better this way or this way. I think it sort of naturally is wanting to curve in this way, so I'm going to use this side. And I need to get both ends of this slip knot, or both ends of this band I should say. So I'm going to undo that slip knot, grab both of these loops, and pull through to the back. And then I'm leaving those on my hook, and I'm going to go to this next spot over and push up. And I will grab my next band. I'm going to sort of undo this slip knot again, just so I can get both ends of that rubber band to go on my hook. Pull those to the back. So you have 4 loops, 2 go through the other 2. And then again, I'm going to this next opening. I'll get this next band, both ends of that loop to go on. I can see my end one came apart. I'm just going to let that go for now and hope it doesn't come all the way loose. So 2 through the other 2. I'm going to grab both ends of that loop and pull it through to the back. 2 through the other 2. And then I'm going to go through one of the loops on the back here, so it's hidden inside. And I'll need to take one additional band, and I'm just going to pull through both of those, one through the other, and make a nice and tight slip knot. So then I have my first ear attached. And you might want to do a little bit of adjusting, sort of get it to curve how you want it, and see if you like how the positioning is. And then we're going to do that same thing for the other side. So again, I need to find that center point, and I'm not going to, let's see, I want to make sure it lines up with here too. I'm not going to the next one, but maybe this next one over, which is right here. And again, I'm going to do it from this side. So I'll get both of these ends of this band and pull through. And let's see, I want to make sure that it goes straight over. So it looks like maybe come up to this one. Again, grab both ends of the loop. And then over to the next. Grab them both. And then one more time here. Let me see. I think I want to come up through this hole. Get both ends. And then again, I just need to go through one loop on the back, take an additional band, pull through everything, and slip knot. Whoops, just broke my rubber band, but that's okay. I'm just going to tie this in an extra knot here so that won't come apart. And then my little cat ears are attached. Next we'll add the facial features. So I do have buttons that I'm using for the eyes. So these are about 10 to 12 millimeters, and you can see that they're an oval shape. So I have strung a rubber band onto that. And then I have 2 additional white bands that I'm going to use for anchor bands for the eyes. I have 2 orange bands for the nose and then an additional anchor band for that. And then for the whiskers you can use embroidery floss, which I'll be showing, or you can use rubber bands. I'll show you on the first one that I had made. I just used rubber bands. I just cut a rubber band and then threaded it through and just tied it off inside. So I'm going to do the eyes first. I just want to see where I want to place them. So Hello Kitty has eyes that are spaced pretty far apart actually. So I would say maybe right around here. So I'll just mark this first one. I'll come up through, grab one side, pull through, and then come up on the other side. Now it depends on your beads. You might have bands that go the other direction. Just depends on how the holes are set up. Pull that through to the back, pull one through the other. Should fold this up in half again. And then I'm going to go under a band inside, but since this is kind of long, I want to go not to a band that's right next to it, but I'm going to go a little bit farther out just to give that a little bit more tightness. Pull through both and make that nice and tight slip knot. So here's the one eye, and then I guess I'm going to try and keep it on the same row here. I'll go like right over here maybe. Just see about the spacing. And I'm going to pull through the one end and then get the other end, one through the other, and again I'm going a little bit farther away here, and I'll tie this off. Next I'll do the nose, so I'm going to take my first orange band and I want to twist this and put it back on until I have 5 loops, because I want this to be nice and tight. So that's 4, and one more time, there's 5, and then I'm just going to slide this on, and again this is going to be super tight. You're probably going to have to do just a couple at a time. And if you feel like your bands are just way too tight, you can do less than 5. I'm going to slide this into the center. And then I'll see where I want the nose. Now with Hello Kitty, her nose is almost in line with her eyes. It's very, very close. So I'm going to come up through this one. And then just go right next to it. And again, I'm pulling one through the other, and then I'm going to go farther away to tie this off. And you can do some adjusting if you need to. So we have her little face on. Next I'll do the whiskers. So I have 2 pieces of embroidery floss, and they're both about 8 inches in length. And I have a needle on the one, and what I'm going to do is see where I want the whiskers to go. So if you look at pictures of Hello Kitty, her whiskers are pretty much in line with her eyes. Pretty sure that the first one that I did, I had the whiskers a little bit on the lower side, but for this one I'm going to put them up closer to the eyes. So I think I will come up through, let me see, maybe through this hole right here. And then I want to leave a little bit of a tail inside so I can tie this off. But I'm going to come a couple of spaces over here, at least 2 holes, maybe even 3 holes. And I want this one to angle slightly upward. So let me just see if I like the way that this looks. And then I'm going to come down to the next hole. Now if you look, the way that the holes are, they're going to be staggered. So since we're in this one, we're not going to find one right below. It's either going to have to go a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left. So I'm going to have it go a little bit more to the left. So I'll come up this hole and just try and be careful that you're not poking holes in your rubber bands if you're using a needle. And then this one's going to come straight out. I think maybe I'll just go over 2 here because I don't want it to be too much out of line with the other one. And then I have one more to do, so I'm going to come, let's see, I'm going to come down and I will go to this opening right here, come up through, and now this one is going to come a little bit more diagonally down and to the left. So let's see, maybe to this spot right here. So I'll see how I think this looks. I think it looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is just to take these 2 loose ends, and inside here, let me just flip this. I'm just going to tie this off. So I'll get my other end. It looks like my bands are separating. And I'm just going to tie this in a knot. Looks like I should have left the tail just a tiny bit longer. And then you can trim this if you want to. So we have one side of the whiskers done, and then we're just going to repeat that for the opposite side. To make the hands and arms, you're going to need 11 white bands. So I'm going to take 3 bands to start. I'm going to take them all 3 together, and I'm going to triple these on my hook. So I'm just putting them all on at once, twist, back on, twist, and back on. So it's going to look like this. And then I'm taking 2 bands and I'm going to double these. So on, twist, and back on. And then what I'm going to do is take this tripled section and slide it onto this doubled section. So it's going to be pretty tight. So you just have to really take your time, and you might have to do it in little sections at a time if you can't get it all at once. And we're just sliding this over. It looks like I'm not sure if I got every bit. Here it looks like I have one more I didn't get over. So there should be 4 loops on your hook, which is that doubled band, and then in your fingers there should be 4 additional loops that are the other sides of those. So you just want to make sure as you're putting these on that you get 4 loops. So here you go, you have 4 loops on the left and 4 loops on the right, and you have this tripled section. This is going to be like the 4 fingers, since she has like a mitten type hand. And then we need to still do the thumb. So I'm taking 1 single band and I'm going to quadruple this. So just twist and put it back on so you have your 4 loops. Taking the next band and doubling it. And then this quadrupled band, is going to just slide on to the doubled. Again, get the other end back on and just sort of even this out. And now I'm taking an additional band, it's going to get doubled, and then these two sections are going to slide on. So what I like to do is just flip this around, so that way you have sort of like a little nub here to hold on to, and you just pull this out, slide it on, and the same thing for this section, just pull it out and slide it on. Now you have to get the other end, get those two loops back on your hook. So you probably want to slide these over just to get them a little bit more evenly spaced. And then we have 3 additional bands we're just going to double and slide on. So here's one. And again, just try and even these out. Two. And 3. So you can do a little bit of adjusting if you feel like you need to. Sometimes it seems like it's bent towards one side or the other. And then on the edges here, you want to try and get it as smooth as you can. If you have any bands that are sticking out, just try and get them to lay down. So that is one hand, and what you can do is carefully take this off and just lay this down, and then you'll need to repeat this one more time. And I'm not going to film this, but I will add the time to go back to if you feel like you need to follow along with the steps again. Next we'll attach the arm, so I have 2 additional white bands, and I need these to go sort of down more towards the bottom because it has to be below the whiskers here. So I'm going to go through this hole here, grab the 2 loops. I want the thumbs to be pointing upward, and I'll just come down to this next opening. I'll get the other 2 loops, pull through, and then I'm just going to go through all 4 and tie that off. And then I want to make it pretty symmetrical, so I'm going to come straight across, and I'll come up through this opening. Again, I want the thumbs to be pointing up, so I'm going through these 2 loops, go down to the next opening right below, grab the next 2 loops from that other side, and again, just make a nice and tight slip knot. And you can do some adjusting if it needs to be done. Next we're going to do the bow, and for that I have 40 pink bands, and I kind of have it laid out in the way we're going to do it. I'm just going to do it all in one segment. So first we're going to take a band and triple it. So this is going to be the center of our bow. So just twist and put it back on until you have your 3 loops. So now we're just going to work on 1/2. I'm going to pull 2 bands through. So you could use a twist tie to help you get started. I'm just going to use my plain fingers, and then going back in through that tripled band, pull through a second. And so now we have one little part started, and I'm going to turn this. So it's a little bit hard because you have such a small piece you're working with, but you want what's going to be the right side to be facing you. So I need to go in through the back side. So you can see here's where my hook is through this band. I'm going to go in through this stitch that the band is coming up through. I'm going to push in from the back, going through the 2 loops, and I'm going to pull through 3 bands, one at a time. So here's 1, back through from the back, same stitch. There's 2, and then once more. This is my 3rd. And then once again, I'm going to turn this or flip it. So now the wrong side is facing me, and I'm going to go in through these stitches. So now that we changed the side, we're still going in through that same side, but now it's facing us. So we're going from front to back, going through the one where my band is coming up through, pushing through both those loops, and we're going to do 3 sets of increases. So I have 2 in this first stitch. Whoops, I didn't quite make it through there. So there's 1, and then back through that same one for a second. And then moving over to the next stitch, we have 2. And now technically there's not really a 3rd stitch, but what we're going to do is go under this little V here. It's going to be really small and tight. We're sort of creating our own stitch here. And I have 2 that are going to go in there. So you can see that it's starting to fan out. And again, I'm going to flip this. So now once again, my hook needs to go in through from the back side. I have 6 bands and then 1 to tie it off. So from the back here, I'm just doing 1 in each. Again, they're all coming through from the back. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then once again, you don't really have a 6th stitch, but we're going to make one. So this little area on the side here, this little V, we're going to push through, and this is going to be my 6th stitch. So now you can see we have half of our bow done. So I just need to tie this off and hide this loose loop. So I'm just going to go under a stitch on the back here, just under 1 band, and I'm going to pull through everything. Whoops. I'm going to make that slip knot nice and tight, and then I just need to hide this. So I'll go under a bunch of these on the back. And pull through. Maybe just a couple more. So we have it halfway done. And I'm going to repeat this same thing on the opposite side. So I'm going to go in through from the back. Actually, let me just flip it. So I'm going in through from the front, but the wrong side is facing me. And I'm going to pull 2 through here. So there's 1, back through for the 2nd. And then I'm flipping it. So now I'm going in this stitch, the one the band's coming up through, going in from the back side, And I have 3 I'm going to do in here. So there's 1, 2, 3, flipping it again. This time I'm going to do 2 in each. So the one that's coming up through, if it looks like your band is twisted at all, you can just go around and untwist it. This time I'm going from front to back. So there's 1 and 2. In the next stitch I have 2. And then if you remember from the other side, we kind of have to create that next stitch. So I'm pushing through this little V on the side, and you will feel that it's definitely tighter. So that's 1. And 2. Flip this around again. Now the correct side is facing you. You're going in through from the back. And we have our 6 singles, and then 1 band to tie it off. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we have to create that 6th stitch. So along the side here, this little tight. So that's number 6. And then finally flip to the back, go under a stitch on the back, or a loop I should say, pull through everything, nice and tight, slip knot, and then just hide that. So you can do some adjusting with it to get it to be nice and curved. And then the last thing we're going to do is just to put that tie in the middle, just to cover that up and make it look like a real bow. So I'm taking 2 bands at once, and I'm going to wrap this around. So I'll just grab one side and then the other. Pull the 2 bands through the other 2. And then I have 1 more band. It's going to sit in the middle, and that's what's going to help to anchor it on the head. And you can adjust these to get them right in the middle. And then there is your bow. I need 1 additional band for the anchor to add the bow. So usually I think in the pictures she has her bow on the right side, but it's up to you what side you want to put it on. And I want it to go just below the ear here. So I think I will come up maybe right about here, grab one side, pull it through to the back, and then I'm going to just come up to a spot right above that, get the other end, pull that through, one through the other, and again let me just flip this, just lost that, but that's alright. I got the one loop through the other, and then again a little bit farther away here I'm going to go through and do that anchor band. So let me just adjust this here. The foot is going to begin with a magic ring of 5, so I have my 6 white bands. So again, I'm just going to use this twist tie to help me get the magic ring started. I'm tripling my first band, and then that should leave 5 additional bands that you're going to pull through one at a time. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And again, you're going to add your clip. And then I'm just going to even this all out. In row 2, you'll need 8 bands, so I have 3 pink and I have 5 white. So we are going to start with a slip stitch since we're changing color, and the pattern is going to be 3 increases and 2 singles. So the first one is an increase, and since it is a slip stitch, you're just going to pull through the stitch and also pull through the one on your hook. Get the other end back on, so you should have just the 2 pink, and one pulls through the other. Back through that same stitch for a second pink. In the next stitch we have an increase, but again we're changing color, so you're going to pull through everything back on. So now you have just the 2 white, one through the other, and then in that same stitch for your second. And then in that third stitch we have our last increase, and we're not changing any color just yet. In the next stitch we have a single white, and then finally where your clip is we're having a single, but it's pink, so you're pulling through everything back on and one through the other. You'll need 12 bands for row 3, and they are going to be all pink this time. We're doing 2 singles, 4 increases, and then 2 singles. So I'm going to point out that we did slip stitches in the previous row, and this makes it a little bit harder because it makes what I call false stitches. So if you look here on this first pink, you can see this little pink, what I call sort of like a half stitch that's sticking more straight up. That was created from doing a slip stitch, so that's not actually the true stitch. It's the one that's more on the outer edge. You're going to go through that, and we're doing a single pink. And then in the second pink stitch, you're doing another single. Now again, on the previous row we had changed color, so again you have this little half false white stitch. You're ignoring that, going to this next white stitch, and this time we're doing an increase. So we have 1, and then a second one, and then we have 3 more increases to do. So here's our second increase, and then a third, and finally a fourth. And then you should have 2 stitches remaining, 2 singles. So the next one is pretty straightforward. But then in this last one, again, you're going to see this little false pink stitch. You're ignoring that, and you're going under where your clip is, and that's going to be your last stitch. Row 4 is the final row of the foot, and for that you're going to need 15 pink bands for the actual foot, and you'll need one additional band that we're going to use to tie it off. So the pattern is going to be 5 singles, 3 increases, and then 4 singles. So you don't have any slip stitches to worry about this time. So we're going under our next stitch and we're going to do 5 singles in a row. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're doing 3 increases. So that's 1, 2, and then 3. And then you should have 4 singles left. So this is coming around to the back of the foot. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So I'm just going to take this clip and totally remove it. I have my 1 band left that I'm going to use to tie this all off. So I'm just going to go to the next stitch over, but I'm going to go just through this stitch that's on the inside. I'm going to just push down through that. I'm going to take this last band, pull through both loops, get the other one back on, and pull one through the other. I'm going to pull that nice and tight to make a slip knot. And then all I need to do is just to hide this loop. So let me just flip this inside out, and I'll just go through several of these loops on the inside. And then I'm going to just take this loop and just carefully get it to slide through all of these. And then I can flip it back around. And then we have one of the little feet complete. Now you need to make your second foot. So once again, I'm not going to film this, but I will add that time to go back to if you feel like you need to follow along with the instructions once again. The final thing we need to do is just to put this all together. So I have my 2 pencils. I'm going to go through this magic ring with the eraser side. It's going to be tight, so just do your best. You're going to have to push that through, and you want to get this bottom to be even with the base of the foot. So then it'll stand up on its own. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other pencil. So just go through that magic ring. And then I'm going to use my piece of cardboard that I've punched the holes in and just place pencils up through. And if you wanted to, you could put some stuffing in here, but I'm not going to use any. I'm just going to place this up inside. And if you've cut it to the proper size, it should just go a little ways up inside. And just get it snugly to fit in there and get it to be even all the way around. And then here your little Hello Kitty is done. So she should stand up on her own here. And I think she's just an adorable little decoration. I hope that everyone loves their new little Hello Kitty ghosts. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook. You can post pictures of your creations to my Facebook page. I always really love to see what everybody's done. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that way you'll be the first one notified when I have new tutorials available. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!